Hey there, BookTube. Noah. Everyone who reads it must converse. And today, we celebrate the life of Flannery O'Connor. Today is the anniversary of Flannery O'Connor's passing. So, what better way to celebrate her life than to take a real look at one of her stories? And so, what the story that I grabbed was the story that gave me the name for my channel. The story is called Everything That Rises Must Converge. Wonderful name for a story, and it is a wonderful story. It's one of my favorites from her for sure. That's why, I got the channel name that I do. Flannery O'Connor is an amazing storyteller, and this has some of the themes that Flannery O'Connor is very famous for in her short stories. We're going to go over it. I hope you enjoy this and celebrate along with me. Hannah at Hannah's Books, Christy Lewis at Dostoevsky in Space, and Una and Crypto over at the Codex Cantina. We've all teamed up, and we're all doing a little something today for celebrating Flannery O'Connor's life. So check them all out, and I hope you enjoy, and let's get to it. So this story it takes place in the time period of the integration. The Jim Crow laws have been repealed, and we are in the South. We are in a small town in the South. Doesn't say exactly where. But not a super small town. Something like Macon, I think. I think of somewhere like Macon, Georgia. Not the capital, but a hub of travel and a town that has a public transit system. Things like that. So we have a son and his mother, and they are alone. They live together as far as I can tell, and there's no other family members to speak of. The mother, and I'm gonna give a brief. I'm gonna lean heavily on the text for this analysis for sure, because Flannery O'Connor has definitely things to say. And so I'm gonna let her say those things, and then we can explore some ideas. So there's the son Julian, and then Julian's mother, and she is known only as Julian's mother in this. So the story is from Julian's perspective. We see things from Julian's perspective, and we see the mother from Julian's perspective. As the story opens up, Julian is accompanying his mother every Wednesday night. It's a Wednesday night, and he accompanies her to a exercise class. She needs to, her blood pressure is high. She needs to engage in exercise. So she's doing this exercise class down at the Y on Wednesday nights, and she says she doesn't want to travel alone at night on the buses. Well, why? Why is because integration. It is a time when now there's no Jim Crow laws, no separate but equal anymore. That kind of thing of separate but equal, on looking back, seems so absurd, right? It would never have worked out like that. There is no separate but equal kind of way of approaching anything like that, and then think that it is going to be going to work ongoing. So that's the kind of place we're in. And Julian, you get a sense at the very beginning that he's kind of depressed, at least in the situation that he's in, of accompanying his mother and doing this kind of thing. Is kind of like, he's having to like kind of eat crow. You know what I mean? He doesn't like what he's doing. And why is because Julian is a young man that has graduated college, And his mother is a very, stuck in her ways kind of older woman that is, that definitely has a problem with integration of races in the South. And Julian embraces it and is just like, this is the way the world is now. He's constantly calling out his mother for certain things that she's saying. He's cringing at certain things that she says, and he looks at her like she's very ignorant, which she is, and bigoted and prejudiced. So Julian actually, is just doing a good thing for his mom, and they go walk out of their apartment to catch the bus. And one of the main things that is shown up, like just right at the beginning here, is this hat that his mom is wearing. She's wearing this gaudy green and purple hat that's just, she's taking it as a point of pride that she has this kind of expensive hat on. And, I shouldn't wear it. Oh, maybe I should wear it. I shouldn't wear it. I should take it back, and all this kind of crap. And it's just eating Julian alive to have to put up with it. His mother is self-righteous, and his mother is very prideful of what she sees as her dignity, being, that her family line. There is maybe her great-grandfather she calls out as being, or Julian's great-grandfather she calls out as being a governor. And then his grandfather she calls out as being a wealthy landowner. And he just hates it. It's not a point of pride for him. So they go on down to the bus stop, and they wait, and they get on their bus, and she has, like I said, a very quote unquote traditional, but a very bigoted and prejudiced viewpoint towards just people, just any black man or woman that she might come in contact with. So they get on the bus, and there's no black people at all, just all white people, and it's about half full. She sits on the seat and immediately starts up a conversation, and it goes a little something like this. So it is, can it get any hotter? And a woman pipes up and says, I reckon it might could, but I know in fact that my apartment can't get no hotter. And then she comes back, must be the afternoon sun. And then after just a little pause there, because this is what she really wanted to get at, this is the kind of conversation that she likes to do. This is self-validating. She says, I see we have the bus to ourselves. And Julian cringes at this. Julian knows exactly what she's getting at, exactly where she's going to go with the conversation, and it just drives him nuts that this is the way that she just conducts herself. But of course, she's in a setting where there's people that feel very much the same as she does about things. And so somebody says, for a change, I came on the other day and they were thick as fleas. They were all up front and all through. So there's the conversation level right there. That Julian, we see why Julian doesn't like to do this for his mother. And so one of the things that comes up is that Julian's mom says that they should rise. Of course, the black people in America should rise, but they should rise on their own side of the fence. And that is an allusion to the Jim Crow laws. That's at least should do that. Which is, like I said before, just totally not going to happen. And they have already, as a society, America has already went past that and said, integration is happening. So, Julian has grabbed a paper and is staying quiet at this point. And then the bus stopped with a sudden jerk and jerked him from his meditation. He was sitting there, just kind of withdrawing in himself as to not, pay too much attention to what's going on and get himself all worked up. A woman from the back lurched forward with little steps and barely escaped falling in his newspaper as she righted herself. She got off and a large Negro got on. Julian kept his paper lowered to watch. It gave him a certain satisfaction to see injustice in daily operation. It confirmed his view that with such few exceptions there was no one worth knowing within a radius of 300 miles. The Negro was well dressed and carried a briefcase. He looked around and then sat down on the other end of the seat where the woman with the red and white canvas sandals was sitting. He immediately unfolded a newspaper and obscured himself behind it. Julian's mother's elbow at once prodded insistently into his ribs. "Now you see why I won't ride the buses by myself," she whispered. The woman with the red and white canvas sandals had risen at the same time that the Negro sat down and had gone further back on the bus and taken the seat of the woman who had got off. His mother leaned forward and cast at her an approving look. So, Flannery O'Connor very effectively right there shows prejudice in action. The kind of prejudice in action. We have a black man get on the bus, which he's totally within his right to do. There's no reason why he shouldn't. And he's not doing anything. But right when he sits down, his mother is like, "See, because this guy is here, this is why I won't ride the bus by myself," Just total prejudice in action. And the woman who had validated her bigotry before in the conversation gets up because she doesn't want to sit, within a couple of seats from him, gets up and moves away, and his mother gives her an approving look. All right? It's ridiculous. But it just shows how perceptive Flannery O'Connor is. She can illustrate very simply exactly the mind state of these people that are resisting integration. How does Julian respond? Julian rose, crossed the aisle, and sat down in the place of the woman with the canvas sandals. From this position he looked serenely across at his mother. Her face had turned an angry red. He stared at her, making his eyes the eyes of a stranger. He felt his tension suddenly lift as if he had openly declared war on her. He would like to have gotten to conversation with the Negro and to talk to him about art or politics or any subject that would be above the comprehension of those around him. But the man remained entrenched behind his paper. He was either ignoring the change of seating or he had never noticed it. There was no way for Julian to convey his sympathy. So, Julian is not without courage. He does not. He's an intelligent person. He's a very intelligent person. It says in the story, and he's detached himself from his mother and from her viewpoints, and is willing to openly stand up to her and to stand up for what he believes is right. So even in this small way, he's making his mark, and his mother just sits there seething. So they keep on going. He is actually going through some things in his mind, and he imagined his mother, different ways that he could teach her a lesson, or that she could be taught a lesson about the way the world is really, how break her of this racist bigotry, prejudice. He's thinking of different scenarios, like, what if she was sick and the only doctor that could be secured for her was a black man or a black woman. That she'd be forced to humble herself in the face of that one, right? Things like that. And so he's just sitting there going over these kind of things. And the ultimate, the ultimate lesson that he could teach her, that thing that runs through his mind is to choose for himself a black woman as his wife. And all these are kind of fantasies that he's going through. And as he's going through it, the bus stops again, and the black man gets off, and another woman gets on, and she is just this huge, not to say overweight, but just a big woman, and she has like a 4-year-old son with her. And she is obviously a well-off black woman. She is dressed very gaily. It says, bright colors, and her shoes and all this, but her feet are overflowing out of her shoes. Her thighs are green, green pants going down. It's just huge. She's a very imposing woman. And how she's described is her face was set not only to meet opposition, but to seek it out. The downward tilt of her large lower lip was like a warning sign, "Don't tamper with me." Her bulging figure was encased in a green crepe dress, and her feet overflowed in red shoes. She had a hideous hat. A purple velvet flap came down to one side of it and stood up on the other. The rest of it was green and looked like a cushion with the stuffing out. She carried a mammoth red pocketbook that bulged throughout as if it was stuffed with rocks. So she's just this huge, imposing woman. And she comes and she sits next to Julian in the seat where the black man had just got up and left. And her son, her 4-year-old son, sits across the way, which is where Julian's mother is sitting. So effectively, the two mothers are sitting with each other's sons. And Julian notes this and knows that his mother's never going to understand that, never going to take it into account. But then he notices the ultimate lesson, and it is this. His eyes widened. The vision of the two hats, identical, broke upon him with the radiance of a brilliant sunrise. His face was suddenly lit with joy. He could not believe that fate had thrust upon his mother such a lesson. He gave a loud chuckle so that she would look at him and know that he saw. She turned her eyes on him slowly. The blue in them seemed to have turned a bruised purple. For a moment he had an uncomfortable sense of her innocence, but it lasted only a second before principle rescued him. Justice entitled him to laugh. His grin hardened until it said to her as plainly as if he were saying it aloud, "Your punishment exactly fits your pettiness. This should teach you a permanent lesson." And so the mother and this black woman are wearing the same hat. The hat that his mother is so proud of getting. And it's just a perfect kind of thing. Julian is overwhelmed that fate has given this kind of lesson to his mother. That, look, this isn't a game here. This woman is on par with you. That's what it is. And it passes very quickly. The mother, does some mental gymnastics there and justifies that this woman has the same hat as her and is still not on her level. Julian sees it in her facial expressions, and the mother contents herself to play around with the 4-year-old boy, her son. Well, the woman doesn't like that and pulls the boy away and chastises him. Straighten up, calm down, chill out, And Julian is in pain, just whatever. So they get to their stop, and Julian reaches up to pull the bell to stop the bus, just as the same time as the black woman does as well. And he's like, oh no, we're getting off at the same stop, and he can see it happening. He says to himself, my mother, she's gonna give this little boy, this little 4-year-old boy, she's gonna give him a nickel. She's gonna reach into her purse and give this little boy a nickel, and he knows it. And he tries to, kind of take the pocketbook from her. Let me carry that for you, kind of thing. And she says, "Oh no." Julian's mother says, "Oh no, I'm gonna give this boy a nickel." He says, "Don't," And she's like, "Oh, why wouldn't I? Of course I should. I'm gonna do it." And he's like, "No, don't you dare." They all get off the bus, and the black woman and her 4-year-old son start off down the street, and Julian's mother can only find a penny. So she goes, "I got a penny, but it looks brand new," and goes off, little boy, here, take this penny." And the black woman turns around, obviously, justifiably pissed off, and says, my boy don't need none of your pennies," and whacks her with this with this giant red purse across the face. And she goes down, and she's sitting there, and we'll just kind of leave it there. Suffice it to say that the mother doesn't recover. The mother has a stroke. And so when it comes down to the everything that rises must converge, we have a number of different kind of themes and things that come out in a lot of Flannery O'Connor's work. None less than what is termed very, very often in her work as the terrible speed of mercy. This is God's grace granted to one of her characters that often shows itself as violence, if not death. And so the mother, couldn't bear to handle herself and couldn't wrap her head around the type of world that we live in, what was right and what was wrong, ultimately. And so she was punished for it. And it is not the woman, the black woman, that punished her. It is God that brought this kind of thing to her because of her own mind state. She couldn't see the relationship that this woman, and Julian says it very clear at the end, saying, don't think that this is some uppity Negro woman. She wasn't uppity Negro. She is actually you. She's you as a black woman. That's who that was right there. And that's exactly what Flannery O'Connor is showing and trying to show in that story. That this woman was a reflection of Julian's mother. And she couldn't see that. She wanted to remain above and remain higher and that kind of thing. And so she paid the price for that. So in this, I would say, I would point you to a little bit of a controversy that comes from a very, I think a very short-sighted article that was written on Flannery O'Connor. And it is an article that is calling out and asking how racist was Flannery O'Connor. When it comes down to it, there was not anyone that lived back at that time that didn't think about things and talk about things using certain language that we would term racist today. That's just how it is. It's not how it is and saying, well, that's good, we should still be doing that at all. Not anything like that. But to understand that at that time, listen to some of Martin Luther King's speeches and the kind of language that's used for that. If anybody used that language today, black or white, you'd say this is racist language. And that kind of thing is just, that's the time period that it was. That's the way that, this kind of issue of desegregation and equality, that kind of thing was just being navigated. It was things that were constant conversation pieces and political speeches, things like that. And, just popular, news and newspapers and those kind of things are what shaped the narrative that we look back on now. And so I would point to this story right here to show explicitly that Flannery O'Connor was very much in favor of integration. She was very much in favor of equality. Flannery O'Connor was somebody who saw in everyone, depending on their own capacity, of course, but saw the potential for a purely spiritual life in everyone. The potential for a union with God in their lifetime. And so she personally practiced and personally had her own spiritual experiences, but never would take that kind of thing away from others. But she would, she definitely saw people for what they were and was able to illustrate those kind of things. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I think that I would just point you to check out the story. It's a really, really good one. The Everything That Rises Must Converge is one of my favorite of Flannery O'Connor's stories. And so, what a powerful story. So well told. And it, you can think about it for a long time. You can think on it from a lot of different angles. So, any thoughts or any kind of impressions that you get from it like that, please drop me a line in the comments. Thank you, BookTube. Happy day celebrating Flannery O'Connor's life. Bye-bye.